You know, everybody out there is talking about 3i ATLIS right now. And I wanted to offer a possible solution for you so that we can all understand this in the same way. What I think is going on here is we're getting resonant plasma or structured plasma going on inside of it. Now, it'll look like nuclear fusion is the way they'll describe it, and it is. But it's not necessarily nuclear fusion that you can use to propel something forward. And I mean it in this way. There's way too much radiation going on this thing in order for anything to live on it. I do not believe it's an alien mothership going through. There's not enough structure to hold back in the radiation that's going on. So let's look at it from a science perspective and see exactly what we're talking about here. We're dealing with structured plasma on the inside. And how will we know that? It has to do with how it's interacting with our sun and why it has no tail. You see, when you get something that structures in plasma, it's just plasma running through in circles to each other. Let's take a look. If I built this here, and then I told you it just went in this direction, and this right here would be null. Just a null zone. And in structured plasma right here, we have a frequency. Depending on how big you build it, that frequency is going to be a bigger gap between the two. Generally, if you build it on your bench or something like that, you're looking at maybe a 5 kilohertz difference in the frequency itself, but it's resonant frequency. It's not just frequency. There's a big difference in understanding resonance and regular frequency. This right here, what happens to it? Well, if you put a second one here, and we just say it's the same, okay? Same direction, we're not changing it in this, we're still making that null, still putting the frequencies in here, right? It goes back and forth to each other. So what does that mean? It basically means that as one side goes down and has less energy, the other one's full of energy. And then it'll go back and forth just like a beat. Now, the frequency itself on the bench could be right around 110 kilohertz, okay? But the beat frequency itself would only be around 6 to 8 hertz. Just understand this. The beat frequency is lower than the actual frequency of the object, okay, when you deal with resonance. Again, one amplifies while the other one goes down. So what happens when you do something like this on a planetary scale? Well, now instead of a second one, we put a sun over here. The sun itself is basically the same thing as this. It is structured plasma on the inside. Now, because of its different layering in it, it will pick up different things, okay? You say, okay, if you start with hydrogen, it goes to helium and you get more energy out of it. Yes, those things are true. But it does it based on the frequency that each layer is at and why they're interacting with each other. So, if we knew that this had frequency here, we know that this thing comes through and then it would align with this and then back to this. What would happen? Well, on one side, you'd get green. On the other side, you get blue. And you say, well, why is that? Why would I get that? Because light itself is based on the frequency of it. So, if this thing goes down in value, the frequency changes, as this one goes up in value. And then it'll go back and forth. So what do you get? you get this thing that looks like it's two different colors going on like this. But what is it actually doing? It's just changing the frequency of the resonance frequency inside of it in order to change the color on the outside. This means it has no tail. It's not ice coming off. It's not propelling through that. It's basically just plasma bursts going on. That's the difference. So what happens when this thing goes through our solar system? You see, this is where it gets kind of weird. When you mess with the frequency of the sun, there is a chance that the amplification could stay inside the sun. You see, any object like this with sufficient mass, and it doesn't have to be mass as in a pin, it could be mass of plasma or gas. When you have something like that, even if it's on the outside of our solar system, it will start to create this beat frequency far out. It could just be rotating around the outside of our solar system, and it'll start to create it. Why? Because frequency in resonance works that way. It starts to couple with things that matches it, okay? If I said this one right here is my resonance frequency, right? And then this right here matches it in some way. Now what happens? We start to develop a beat, and it'll start to develop over time and distance. And as soon as it comes in further, or closer to our planet, I should say, or closer to our sun, this actually will amplify. Now what do I mean? So if you're looking at your oscilloscope, and we just want to figure out what like amplification is, you have your normal wave here, but what happens? When you amplify it, it goes like this. We're not changing the duration, what we're changing is the peak level. You see how the peaks go here, where normally they're here and here. That's what it does. It changes the amplification of it in order for it to have more energy. Now what happens when this thing goes through your solar system? These, we know what's beating with this. We can put that back in there. But what happens to your planet over here? Well, because you probably have a plasma core, because this is always beating to the sun, back and forth, this now picks up the binaural beat from that. People say that's the frequency of our planet. I believe that that's the beat frequency of our planet. You see, when you get into our planet right over here, this is in the megahertz or higher when you get into the upper atmosphere. Okay, or it is not in the hertz level at all. Okay, where's the hertz level taking place? Right here. Why is it taking place there? Because it's a beat frequency. Beat frequencies is what they do. Anything in resonance, two coils in resonance, you put them close to each other, you're going to develop a beat frequency in between them. And it's going to go extremely slow. Extremely slow. What does that mean for our planet for this right here? If I'm right, and that's the beat frequency of our planet, you could see this go up, or you can see that go down. If the planet allows it, and the sun allows it, it could stay with the higher amplitude going forward. There's a lot of Indian tradition out there that says that through the Hopi Indians, that we're actually going to go into the fifth dimension. It means it's going to change our resonance frequency. What does that mean? It means the beat frequency of our planet. They've done studies already where they've taken people and they put them in rooms that remove that beat frequency. They remove that Schumann's resonance from their area, and it messes with their bodies. It screws up all their timing and everything. Why? Because that's who we are. We're connected to our planet in that function. So if it raises or lowers, it means that we are going to have to deal with that. Our bodies ourselves have to deal with that. It's funny that they would come out with all this stuff, or I should say ironic, and it matches their tradition perfectly, but it also matches the science of what's going on. This thing coming through our solar system, it could be the one that does it, or there could be a bigger one. So there's nothing on the radar yet for a bigger one, but we're going through a part of our universe where things like this are coming into existence for us. So we'll just erase this right here. I know people don't understand this yet, but let's say this is the sun, and then, you know, obviously we have everything out here as far as where the planets are. And by the way, where every planet is, it's specific to the area that it's in based on the actual structured plasma of the sun. That's how every one of these develops, okay? And then you can have a secondary one, which you have moons develop based on that. And what you're gonna find out is, this is not random, this is not a collision. Your moons are not collisions. They're actually born this way inside solar systems. Once this thing activates in resonance plasma and structured plasma, it'll build out everything around it, just like this with moons and everything included, based on how it builds out. And what you're gonna find though, is in this structure here, we're actually inside of a universe. You think about that. So how do we see different universes, right? Well, you can look at them like we're over here and we're going this direction, but here's the center of the universe right here. No one really knows what it is. Okay, let's just be honest with each other. A lot of people think it's a black hole. A lot of people think it's a null zone. It is what it is. But what happens is when we have another solar system here, following in the same direction, or another one here in the same direction. What does that mean? It means that you're actually inside one of the zones inside the universe. But what happens when you get into this zone? And we just got all kinds of bad stuff here. We have a solar system that didn't make it. Well, that means that we're headed right over to here. Now this means it's going to throw junk inside our solar system. That's what it means. Could some of this been a planet at one time? Could it have been a sun? Could it be a core of something? It could, based on the structure that it is. If it's a destroyed solar system, you know that we're getting all kinds of garbage coming through. And it's going to continuously do this. This is not something that's unpredictable. It's actually very predictable. If you go to Egypt and look in the museum, there's a black pyramidium there. It's basically a black pyramid, and on the front there's a big circle and there's some wings on it. On the right side of it, you're going to see a structure. It's going to look like that, something like that, okay? This part here is what you want to look at. It's predictable. They predicted that this thing comes through our solar system every, 25,000 years, so they put it on the solar cycle, and that we're always going to go through it every time. They predicted it, they knew it, they knew that events around the entire Earth change. If the beat frequency of the Earth changes, what happens? You get more earthquakes. You get more floods. All these natural disasters that are happening on the solar scale, and they're affecting us on a planetary scale. They've been predicting this thing come through here, our solar system, for a long time. Now it's here. In the universe we live in, we're going through a S storm right here. All these things come together when you start to understand the science of it. Self-structured plasma is what these things are. It's what our sun is. It's what every sun is. Everything has a way of working. Let me show you this. Everything's entangled. How is it entangled? This is the center of our cosmos. It's going to build out like this. We are somewhere over here in our little solar system. You cannot create or destroy energy. Therefore, all of the energy comes from here. It's borrowed throughout here, goes back to here, and then comes back either this way or this way. I tend to think it comes back this way. Really depends on which side you see as north and south. If you see that side as north and this side is south, we tend to go north to south. But you never know. When we get to the center, it could be opposite. I'm not going to try to argue that point. I just know that it goes out just like this. Builds out, comes back in. Builds out, comes back in. It's borrowed for every planet or every solar system. It's borrowed through here, then it's returned. A lot of our coils and stuff in Tesla coils work this way as well. Anytime you build something out that has what would tend to be a null zone, not actually null, it basically means there's so much energy on both sides and positive and negative that it looks like there's no energy coming out of it because it's so compressed and so dense that it can't. And therefore you would see it as a null zone. It's not null of energy, it's actually the most energy compact into one area. It's almost like a still, like it just sits still in there. It's not in motion. Not like we normally would say everything's in motion. It's like a still of energy. Anyway, let's get back to the main subject here of Third Eye Atlas. I don't think this is the only one coming through. We keep getting different comments coming through. I would expect comments to come through at all times when this stuff is coming through. This one was different. This one is resonant plasma that's self-structuring inside the device and is directly getting energy amplification from the sun. It'll get it from the planets, and you bet it's going to get it from Jupiter as well. It's going to go through our solar system and do this. And then it's out. 25,000 years later, it's going to return. The only question is what something like this does to everything. Is it going to change 7.83, the Schumann resonance? We don't know yet. We know that our Schumann resonance has been changing. We know that our sun has been picking up a lot of energy in the last 20 years. This thing was hiding outside of our solar system and ready to come into it. And when it does that, anybody who knows anything about resonance would know that the frequency matches the resonant frequency. It starts to pick up energy. But if this one becomes resonant as well, then you start to get binaural beats that happen in between them. And then both of them start to amplify the amount of energy they have. Once you understand that, it makes sense why the sun's energy has been picking up. It makes sense when it goes around the planet and it starts to pick up energy and it starts to affect different planets on the frequencies they're at. If we do change, this would mean that we ourselves are going to change with the planet's beat frequency or resonance frequency or the Schumann frequency, if that's how you see it. Okay, I personally believe it's a beat. Other people believe it's a resonance frequency. I'm not going to argue that point. What I am going to say is that number is going to change. Okay, that's what it is. Now, could this be a small one coming through and a large one's coming in later? Sure could be. There's no reason why it couldn't. Remember, if it's a blown solar system out there and we're going through it, because we always move inside of our universe, okay, just like this in the structure, then guess what? We could be running into a much bigger one. This is what they would call Planet X. I know a lot of people out there haven't put it together yet, but this is a precursor, or this is it. One of the two. This is the structure they've been waiting for to come through our solar system. Anyway, I hope this helps you guys out in understanding some things. The resonance part of it absolutely works. I deal with it every day. I deal with the beat frequency, stuff like that. So hopefully this helps you guys out. With that said, have yourself a great day.
The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality restricted from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.